So I feel like it has more to do with that, with our environment, rather than being, attacked by a virus or something of that nature. So lately I've been having all of these people come in with this terrible congestion and just, achy neck, achy shoulders, just migraines, headaches from people who have never had these problems before. And it's just so strange to me that all of a sudden everybody is having the same thing. Now, definitely there was upper respiratory problems going around. Definitely we had a few viruses that were attacking. A couple people, came in, said they had flu, and we know that the flu is a special kind of virus, and that's something that can be tested for. But even still, they would get over the sickness through whatever means that they found necessary. But it was hanging on. Things were hanging on. This is what I keep hearing from people. I got better, but not all the way. And I can't shake this cough, and I can't get rid of this congestion, and my ears are plugged, and my, neck is tight, and I having these headaches that I never have. Why is this? Why won't I get rid of this cold? I've been on my second round of antibiotic. I've been on my third round of it. How come I can't get rid?
They're getting prescribed.
Exactly. Why can't I get rid of this cold? Well, we've had wonky weather. We've had very strange weather. We've had a lot of moist dampness. So that's allowed things to bud at a weird seasonal time that what we're used to. So I believe a lot of it is seasonal allergies. I think we're getting seasonal allergies 3 months before we normally would get these things because of the way the weather's been. So I attribute some of it to seasonal allergies that, either that or molds, mildew. Over the winter, it's supposed to dry out enough to kill those spores. We haven't had that this winter. I'm not complaining. I really love the winter we've had to a certain extent. But there is an aspect of it that is not good, and that's the fact that it's been cold and damp. And because it's been cold and damp, we've got a lot more spores in the air. We've got a lot more mildews, a lot more molds that we're dealing with. So on top of that, there are some foods that everybody and their brother is coming in with sensitivities.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange to me. Odd sensitivities to certain foods that, 20 people have come into the office and I'm testing them for these things, and they have sensitivities to these foods all of a sudden. And sensitivities are allergies, basically. I like to refer to it as a sensitivity, though, because allergies seem more permanent to people, and sensitivities can really come and go. Allergies can come and go throughout a lifetime, and people don't understand that depending on what's going on, it can either, come on all of a sudden, and then just as easily it can remiss. And so the environment, the weather, what we're eating, particularly if we bombard our system. And I love that word. I use that word a lot because we do that, don't we? We get stuck on foods.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do. I'm guilty of that.
Deb, you are stuck on soups.
I am. I love soups.
I know this about you.
I'm also stuck on phonics.
You're a funny girl.
Oh, that's hooked.
It is
hooked.
Hooked.
On phonics.
It is hooked. I wasn't going to correct you because I was too busy laughing. You're so funny. So anyways, what we are finding is that a lot of the foods that we eat in this area in particular in the wintertime are comfort foods, so to speak. Potatoes and corn and
meatloaf,
and
shepherd's pie.
But soups in particular, we have a lot of vegetables that we're putting in soups. Right. So tomatoes, I don't know how many times I've made chili this year, but my kids are like, they love chili. And I'm like, you guys don't want chili again, do you? They're like, yeah, I want chili again.
You must make good chili.
I make pretty good chili. I'm just saying, little pretty good chili. So they love it. So I make a lot of chili in the winter. I use the crock pot a lot. So I'm doing pot roasts and I'm throwing in all the veggies with it. And I'm doing the, soups with all the veggies in them because I want my kids to eat vegetables. I mean, everybody knows veggies are good for you. Well, what has happened is that we're bombarding that system, and all of a sudden, everybody's been coming in with certain sensitivities to some of the nightshade vegetables. And nightshade vegetables are a variety. There's over 200 different plants that belong in the nightshade variety. But it really, as I've done research about it, it has to do with our DNA. Some of us with our DNA are not well adapted to deal with these foods. So if we're European, if we have European descent, we don't tend to do well with these types of foods. If we're from Mediterranean descent, we tend to do better with these foods.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So our DNA has a lot to do with it. And again, if we're bombarding the system with foods that we kind of can tolerate on a small level, but then all of a sudden we're just eating them and eating them and eating them, all of a sudden one day your body will just go, okay, no, we're done. We're done with this for a minute. You need to give me a break and let me catch up. So the ones that have been the triggers for a lot of people are tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, mushrooms, cucumbers, and some eggs. And that is a hard thing for me to get across to people because I have to be all of a sudden the doctor who says, yeah, you can't eat vegetables.
Yeah.
What kind of a doctor tells somebody they can't have vegetables? But it's just certain ones. And corn and potato have also come up for a few people. So what that's doing is that's creating this high sensitivity issue for people. So they're eating these things, not realizing that they're sensitive to it right now. And it's causing such a variety of symptoms in people.
Like what?
Oh my gosh. Everything from muscular pain, cramps, stomach aches, sweating, hot flashes.
Wow, isn't that something?
Fevers, congestion, plugged ears.
Wow.
I had one lady coming in to me, her ears kept draining. Every night she'd wake up with her pillow wet and it was sort of pinkish tinge. And she's like, and it's not bleeding. She's like, I don't know where this is coming from. Well, it's coming from a food sensitivity.
Wow, who would have thought?
I know. Everything from that, even to menstrual changes. I'm sorry?
Rashes.
Rashes is a good one. Yes. Rashes can come on from that. You can feel like a burning sensation sometimes when you swallow these things. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't even realize that it's affecting you. But sometimes your body will give you a little hint or a little clue. And I always tell people to listen to their body because their body will tell them, to a certain extent if they're paying attention. For example, I had an issue the other day. I drank something and it got down to right about here in my sternum. I'm about halfway down my sternum for the radio listeners. And it just started burning. It was on fire. And I looked down and my whole chest had hives.
See, that is so weird, isn't it?
And I'm like, what the heck? And of course,
that's an obvious allergy.
Yes. But I took some homeopathic allergy remedy right away. And it dissipated within 5-10 minutes. But then that told me, hey,
no,
don't do that again. Don't put that in right now. Something is wrong with that.
And yet you could maybe try it again at a later date to see if that allergy. Yeah,
because usually if you're a good girl or boy and you eliminate for a while, usually after a couple weeks, your body's like, okay, it settles down. And then you can start to add that back in and see how your body reacts. But if, like, say, for instance, if it's congestion and all of that, and you eliminate these things for a week or two, and then you try to put it back in and you're feeling better, right away, your congestion will come back. Everything will come right back. You will feel it. And if you're eating things that you're sensitive to, your body will swell up on every individual cell. Every cell will swell up and have inflammation, which just wreaks havoc on your entire system. So I'm going to kind of check these out. Deb, talk.
Who would have thought that allergies would creep on like that from eating too many foods? It's weird to me that would happen, and yet I've seen it happen. I was in Europe years ago, and my hair is like really bad.
No, it's not. Stop it.
And I love eggs, but going out to breakfast was my favorite meal. And because you know how many, when you have eggs and bacon and potatoes, how many pans you have to use?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I like to go on out to breakfast.
Well, yeah.
And so I loved eggs. I always ate eggs. Easter time, I'd have hard-boiled eggs. And I was in Europe and I came back and I started getting these horrible stomach aches. I mean, to like, I was doubled over. And I went to a couple of doctors, medical doctors, and they wanted to do exploratory surgery because I was 25 years old. And other than that, I was perfectly healthy.
That's
And
always a scary phrase,
it
exploratory
is.
surgery.
And they didn't say keep track of when it happens. They didn't say, and remember, this is quite a while ago, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so my one friend said for me to go to this doctor that was a reflexologist. And I think he was kind of like you, but ahead of his time. And so I went to him and he pushed on my toes and he pushed around my abdomen and told me that I was allergic to something. I had developed an allergy and it had built up in my spleen, I think it was. I know this was a long time ago, and so I have a hard time remembering. But he said, I'm going to give you these 2 minerals. It's one of 2 things. It will wash it out of your body. It'll cleanse that organ, whatever it was. And you should be fine within 2 weeks. And he asked me all these questions. Is there anything, have I traveled? And I said, yes, I was just in Europe. And he said, was anything different there? And right away, I knew what it was because I commented on it when I was there. And I said, the eggs, they were very pale yellow. You know how ours are golden? They were very pale yellow. And he goes, that could be it. When are you getting your pains? Start writing it down, what you eat. And then when you get the pains. And sure enough, it was eggs.
Yes.
And to this day, that was 40 years ago, and I still can't eat eggs.
Isn't that
I can
amazing?
eat like a little bit if it's diluted, like what is
like you could eat
deviled
it in
eggs I can eat.
Okay. And you could eat it in a baked good.
Yes.
Like if somebody bakes a cake with eggs, you're not going to have a reaction.
Right, but like scrambled eggs or just a fried egg that I really liked or a hard-boiled egg, I can't eat that.
I know.
So that was weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And people don't realize how much it can affect them. And the fact that it can kind of come and go throughout, a lifetime, yours unfortunately has stuck with you, but some of them will come and go. Like you'll have it for a few weeks and then you'll be fine for a while. And that's the hard part. Truly listening and assessing yourself. And, I do believe it's very important to write things down. And, if you have a symptom, write it down and then list what you've eaten that day. And then keep track because that is going to tell you a lot if it is a food sensitivity.
Right. So, I can see a problem coming up in the spring with the gardens because we eat tomatoes right off the vine ripe and
exactly.
That's
a lot of people up here do that. And I have 3 practices. I have 1 in Bay City, Michigan. I have 2 up in the Thumb area of Michigan. For those that aren't familiar, Michigan looks like a mitten and the Thumb area is Huron County. And that's where I practice as well. I have 2 different offices up there, but everybody up there has a garden. I mean, probably 80% of the people up there have a garden and they eat out of their garden. And what they don't eat out of their garden, they can and they preserve and they eat that through the winter. And it's good. It's wonderful. You're getting the most nutrients that way. You're getting the freshest produce that way. It's organic. A lot of times people are very careful with the, chemicals they're using and everything. So it's very organic. It's good for them. But the problem is, not only with the food sensitivities, but what I've found seasonally is there's a few issues with potassium. And this is what happens. Potassium is an electrolyte, and that's something our bodies need. But that potassium can only be in certain amounts. So you can't have too little and you can't have too much. If you have too little, you're going to get muscle spasms, restless legs, cramping of the muscles, those kinds of symptoms. If you have too much, you're going to have Charlie horses. It's going to be bad. You're not going to feel good at all. You'll have chest tightening, achy muscles, just feel very stiff head to toe. So you have to have the right amount of potassium. Some people, because potassium really does affect heart tissue, heart is muscle. So some people, because of their heart issues, have to take a potassium pill. every day, and it's prescribed by their doctor.